Hey, this is Dan Rochon, the author of Real Estate Evolution, the 10-Step Guide to CPI, Consistent and Predictable Income for Real Estate Agents. And if you really want to learn how you can level up your life, you should be listening to Time to Shine Today podcast with my friend, Scott Ferguson.
Time to Shine Today, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson. I have episode 118 with my man, Coach Dan Rochon. He's a rock star real estate agent in his own right. He also helps other real estate agents level up their business, level up their life. He has a how-to guide in his book, which I'm not going to say the name of it now. I'll let him introduce that. But I do have a free offer at the end of the show, so make sure you stick around. Again, Dan is fantastic. He's a go-giver. He has going to drop some serious knowledge nuggets on nature and nurturing. And make sure that what you're doing, ask yourself, is it worth the trip on a daily basis? So without further ado, here's my good friend, Dan Rochon. Hey, time to shine today, Varsity Squad. It's Scott Ferguson. And I get to have a conversation with a gentleman, a rock star at that plays in my end of the playing field here with real estate. He is a rock star agent with Keller Williams up in Virginia. And he is I'm pretty stoked because he has this program that he's rolling out that's going to help my real estate agents out there that are listening really level up their life, level up their business. He just wrote a book that was published in February of this year, The Real Estate Revolution, the 10-Step Guide to Consistent and Predictable Income. They call Dan the CPI guy, the Consistent and Predictable Income. He's the guy. Dan is an entrepreneur and real estate agent who recently wrote The Real Estate Revolution. He describes how to develop personally and flourish so you can reach your potential, which means that you will have the courage to stick with selling and make more money. And Dan, I'm super stoked to have you on. Come on, introduce yourself to the squad. But first, what emoji do you use the most while you're texting?
You know, my daughter uses the poop emoji, right? I would already say it's a smiley face.
Smiley face? All right, so you've listened to a few podcasts, and you probably know this one. What's your favorite color and why?
Red. Because it is with fire and assertiveness and taking action.
Yeah, man.
Bright red.
Bright red. You got that Keller Williams red too. That Gary, if you're listening out there, I mean,
Gary, we love you.
Yeah, we had some fun at family reunions. He'll tell you that back in the day. Anyways, so give me a little bit of the origin story, man. Let's take it back to how you got started in real estate. Let's work your way up to your programs that you have now.
Yeah, so 2007, I got out the newspaper because we were still reading newspapers then, and it said, worst economic time ever. And I said, let me start a business. Right? And so that was the wisdom that I had. I was a waiter in a really high-end steakhouse in Washington, D.C., and I wanted to, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to have significance, and I wanted to be able to help people. And so I just didn't know the way. And I started looking at different opportunities in business, and found real estate sales, which had cost me a couple $1,000s and 60 hours of curriculum to get involved into it.
Sure. So
I took the course and started a business, and have really been grateful for all the gifts that I've received from being in the business.
Why real estate, man?
Well, again, it's because when I was looking at those, 2007, I'm waiting, I'm hustling, I'm working 14 hours a day, exhausted. And I'm saying, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I went and looked at Quiznos, Five Guys, all these franchises that were going to cost $250,000 to $500,000. And quite frankly, I didn't have $250,000 to $500,000 as a waiter, professional waiter, right? And so it was the one business that I could get into where I could help people to solve their problems and to achieve their goals. And I was able to, and I could be able to actually, afford to be able to start the business.
So what did your family or close friends think about it? I mean, you're probably making some bank. When I started in real estate, people know I got licensed in 98, that my listeners and followers, I waited tables during my first year and a half, at a high-end restaurant as well. What is your kind of family and friends and, what did they think about you jumping into real estate? Because when I jumped in, it wasn't bad like it was when you jumped. I was treading water when you jumped in. What did your friends and family think about that?
I was transitioning in my life from a place that wasn't good, because at the time I was an active alcoholic a little bit before that. And so they were actually really supportive of me to then transition from a destructive lifestyle into a more healthy lifestyle. Even it didn't matter what I was going to do, but just to be quite frank,
Sure.
with you. I had a lot of support from the family and friends. I didn't have an immediate success. I mean, it took me 6 months before I had my first closing. I remember going in my broker's Karen's office saying, "Karen, I'm about to pay my mortgage with my credit card. What's up?" She's like, "Dan, just keep doing what you're doing." And I was like, "Okay, you're crazy." But I did follow her advice, and I was able to actually buy the brokerage that I worked for about a year and a half after that. So,
Wow.
So I followed her advice. So it was a really rough, slow start, and I was about starving. And then it was a really good 1 year. And then the last 129 months consecutively, I've had 1 to 15 closings. And the net title of the book is Real Estate Evolution. So if we got that.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Revolution.
You're not the first person to do that on a podcast, by the way.
Right.
So, evolution.
Evolution. No, I love that. So what was the click? What made you think, okay, like not think, but like there has to be a time. For me, I walked to my broker's office when my broker was saying, "You know what, we're giving Dawn the corner office." And I'm like, "And I produced this many transactions, this and that." And she's like, "Well, she's producing now. You're not. She wants the office. You lose." And I looked down at her, at the paper in front of her, and it said, behind her was the book Shift by Gary Keller, and I saw that, and I looked down at the paper that she was reading and said short sales. I was like, shift, short sales, shift, short sales. So I ended up closing between 2010, 2014, 412 short sales.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was that? That was my click. I was like, boom, I can do this. What was that thing when you sat down after talking to the broker saying, do your thing? What was it? You something hit you, that idea that came that was like, boom, I know.
And for me, it was short sales as well at that time. And that was for a lender that, had a consultation with me and sat down, Mike McBride. And Mike was like, "Hey, Dan, I think you're going to be successful in this industry. And there's this need that most other agents aren't willing to do right now, which is called short sales. And it's really hard to do. And there's a ton of people that need it. And in fact, you throw a rock, the odds are 1 out of 3 you're going to hit a house that actually needs your services."
Sure.
And so I was like, okay, so let me get this straight. It's hard work. My competition doesn't want to do this, and there's an abundance opportunity. Okay, sign me up. And so that conversation I had with Mike that day, very similar to you, was like, okay, I have a plan here to be able to roll with. Now, the other end of that was because we got so busy doing foreclosed properties, REOs, short sales, that I didn't have the time to build up a staff to be able to support me when the market shifted back to normal.
The mom and pop stuff.
Yeah. And so there was about a year and a half sort of in the in-between there where we sort of like really sort of stumbled before I was able to get that back up and running.
Love it. I love your honesty. I love your transparency.
Yeah.
You and I we were cut on the same sheet. We were going through the same thing, just in different regions. Although I was in Detroit, which was insane.
Yeah. You know what? We were not going through the same thing because you had a lot worse.
So what makes a great real estate agent?
Somebody that listens. So one of the things that I would share with you is that I believe, and I think that's, true of any business owner, is to get into rapport with the people that you're serving. Ask them adept questions and listen. Then as you can understand that, you can understand their needs, their goals, their aspirations, their problems, their dreams, then you could consult them. So in the book, I describe a process that we go through called the 80-20 consultation. Okay. And so that's really about 80% asking adept questions, or being in rapport, asking adept questions and listening. And then 20% about consulting expectations of what will happen next, so that if something goes wrong, because it's real estate and it's people and things go wrong,
no way,
already sort of pre-paved. Right. And so now they look at you like you're Nostradamus rather than somebody that's, doesn't know what they're doing.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's funny that as an agent, and you will attest to this, is that you listen not only with your ears, but your eyes, their posture. Because like you just said, there's so much emotion that's involved in real estate. This is probably, 86% of the United States, their house is their biggest investment, right?
Yeah.
So you're dealing with that. So I can't wait to dig into the 80-20 when I do read your book, and make sure listeners, you stick around, because I got a giveaway for his book as well. So tell us about a nightmare deal. and don't hold back, man. Like, tell
Which one you want?
My listeners love the fails and how you overcame it.
Yeah.
And move forward and leveled up. Tell me.
Man, my mind is rapidly going through right now, selecting one of many. All right. So the first one came to my mind was a mother and the son that had a property, two properties that were side by side each other.
Okay.
And when they owned the properties, the mother built a driveway that came about 10 feet across, encroached onto the son's land. The son's property got foreclosed on. So what happened was the mother sued the bank that was now the owner of the son's property, that they would have to do something about that driveway that was covering their property. And we had to guide that was guiding the bank, which was our client at the time, through the process. It took us about a year and a half to be able to go through the judicial process to be able to get that to closing. And we were able to solve that problem. Now that's with an institution. Now with a person, right. It's, there's many,
Yeah. But that's interesting that you came up with that. You seem, as I read through a lot of your social media and even your LinkedIn, you laterally think. You think like a real estate agent. You have to be pivoting, and I guess that's a new word. We grew up in the business with shifting. Now everyone's talking about pivoting.
Yeah, where'd pivot come from? Because everyone's using pivot.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Pivot and Zoom.
Yeah. So what do you do anything different in your market that differentiates you from other agents?
Yeah.
Because, a lot of times, like DC has a lot of real estate agents. I remember being at family reunions and seeing a lot of real estate agents. I think that one of the prerequisites of being a resident in Washington, DC is a lot like Florida, where you have to have your real estate license just to live there. So what do you do to stand out, man?
All right. You want the key sauce, the key ingredient?
That's it.
I work hard.
Okay.
The end.
That's it.
Right. I study my craft. I'm a professional at what I do.
Love it.
And I live and breathe what I do, and I teach what I do as well. So having the knowledge and following the systems, the right systems,
sure,
and having the systems in place. In fact, that's what I did in the book. That's what the book is about, are the systems to show agents how to, serve clients at the highest level. And following the systems definitely differentiates myself and our team, Greetings Virginia, from the competition, because we're able to give that high level of care to our clients.
Love it. And you actually care. That's if you hear that, listeners, that's Dan actually cares. He gets after it. He levels up. He listens, and he implements his 80-20 rule. And I really can't wait to dig into that, because I think it's a lot like my Ford rule, FORD. So sure. I'm gonna see. I can't wait to see how those kind of work together. So, Dan, let's get in our DeLorean with Marty McFly. All right. So, and let's go back to the 22, 23-year-old Dan. With the knowledge you have now, what kind of knowledge, your experience you have now, what kind of knowledge nuggets are you dropping on that, Dan, to help him shorten the learning curve? Not that he'd listen, because none of our 22
not that knucklehead.
Right. But what kind of knowledge nuggets would you drop on Dan?
So 22 years old, I'm driving my T-top Trans Am off of Fort Stewart, Georgia, driving up 95 from south to north, getting out of the Army.
Okay.
And if I was talking to Danny, that was Danny. I was thinking it was Rochon by that point, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was Rochon by that point. If I was talking to Rochon at that point, I would start with telling him or me that anything in life is possible. If somebody else can do something, if the answer, if yes, then how? And so I had a lot of self-doubt in my early years of my 20s. And then as I got sober in my early years of my 30s, I would say there's a different conversation I'm having with that Dan. Now it's Dan, with that Dan, which would be that you are worthy. And it took me probably till my 40s for me to figure out that I'm worthy to be able to achieve the goals that I'm destined to achieve, and be able to help the people that I'm put here on this planet to be able to help.
Love it. So what did you do? It sounds to me like you're a lot like I was, and still can be, to get out of crisis mode. It seems like you lived in crisis mode a lot versus, really knowing the prosperities there. If yes, then how? You're worthy, but like, what's your exercise? What's your secret sauce to finding your own blind spot to get you out of a crisis mode thinking?
Well, if it's a blind spot, you can't see it. So that's the, very definition of blind spot. So for me, it's being in a relationship with the right people to be able to guide me to seeing those blind spots.
Love it.
And so as I've gone through life, I've realized that, there's very few assets that we have. And I think the majority of people focus on the asset of money, yet the asset of health is probably it is for me the highest asset.
Yeah.
Right. But then you also have time. You also have relationship.
Sure.
And so when I start in spirituality, and there's other assets that you have, because it's just not money. And so as I started to understand that the relationships was a high priority asset in my life, then I was able to surround myself with other people that would help to guide me out of those crises. And it wasn't even necessarily that they were helping to guide me. It was more that they're helping me to identify it.
Sure.
Because I'm a problem solver, right? If I know there's a problem, I can solve it, right? But if I can't see it, if it's in my blind spot, it's.
So you surrounded yourself with the right people that made that issue kind of come to the surface. But how did you find those people?
Intentionally.
Okay.
I hired coaches in my life.
Okay.
One of the things that I've become really good at doing is it's not necessarily like finding the relationships, or at least that's, for me, it's about getting out of the wrong relationships sooner.
Love it. Okay.
Right. And so if it's not a reciprocal relationship where we're actually intentionally helping each other, then, and I give first. And that's always been, that was my challenge when I was younger, is I give.
Yeah.
And I'm not even thinking this guy or gal going to give back to me. Right. And as I've gotten older and wiser, now I'm like, okay, if they're not giving back to me, then it's probably not going to be a healthy relationship for a long period of time.
I love it that you're open to reciprocation.
Oh God, yes. Yeah.
People will be like, give, and then they don't reciprocate, or they don't notice the things that are reciprocated because they're expecting it to be reciprocated from the person that they helped. Like reciprocation can come from, different people, it's funny. I helped somebody this weekend that I knew would never help me ever.
That's okay.
But my goddaughter called me.
Yeah.
Like out of the blue.
Yeah, there's like a circular type thing.
It's like, hey, Kels, and stuff. So that kind of stands out. That's awesome that you said that. And it's another thing that you just said is like you sound kind of me like what I call when I talk to my clients and stuff like that, like almost like a jazz band, because you said money is important, but it's not paramount. You mentioned health, relationships, and what I kind of liken it to is like a jazz band. It's like harmony. I don't believe in balance because balance is zero, but like you have, a guitar might be your personal relationships. The horn might be your health, and then money could be, drums. And it's like, but if any one of them are out of tune, right?
It doesn't sound right.
Right. So like, I love that you just said that you need those different pillars, Dan. That's amazing. So you've did a lot of stuff up until now, but what is the big thing that Dan Rochon wants to do
that I haven't done yet?
Yes, man. Tell me what's huge.
The mission of my life is to help other people to obtain everything that they dream of obtaining. And I do so through my coaching, my mentorship, and my writing. And so for me, the answer to that question is I'll never get that.
Love it.
Okay. Because for me to actually be able to achieve that means that I've made a positive impact on every human soul in the entire planet and universe. I don't know what's beyond, right?
Right.
But it's really, for me, like the most important thing in my life is to be able to, and it's not saying help people, make them be better. It's that they reach their potential. Their natural potential, right? Because there's nature and there's nurture, and like my daughter's adopted, right? So I cannot contribute to her nature. However, I can contribute to her nurture by guiding her the very best, so that she can reach the potential that's within herself.
Wow!
And so that so she doesn't have my DNA, right? That's okay. That's my job is to sit there and open up the doorways for her, so that she can have whatever opportunity in front of her that she, whether it's being a doctor, being a housewife, being the president, I don't care what it is. My job is to make sure that there's a pathway available for her.
You help her with her blind spots. right?
Oh, that too. Yeah, absolutely.
Help her, like, see them before. I mean, let her do her journey, right? But like, help her, see them, But that's awesome. So we talk a lot about the dash here, Dan. In that dash, how do you want your dash to remember that little thing between your life date and death date? What do you want your epitaph? What do you want that dash? How do you want that to be remembered?
It's interesting. I got on my desk here that I'm looking at, there's 4 little sticky notes. And one of those sticky notes that I have here, it says to me, when it's all said and done, was it worth the trip?
Love it.
And for me, and I got another one, I'll just share this with you, about the quarantine, about coronavirus. It says, what will I be remembered for during this time? And what will my business look like when it's all over? And I only have 4 little stickies here, right? And they're very short things for me to be able to focus on. And that's a very, general high level type thing, right? And that's sort of the way that I think. So it's really just about, whether if it's whatever it is at the end of the day, I don't know what the spirit within this human body is, right? I don't have all the answers, and none of us do.
Right.
What I do know is I'm going to make the best out of it for myself and for others. And, I'll make lots of mistakes, and I've made lots of mistakes, and, those are learning opportunities.
Sure.
And, it's just about, living the very best life possible.
Love it. And helping as many people. It sounds like you mentor people as well.
I do.
And my mentor used to always say, the more you mentor, the more immortal you become. So I'm always putting it out there. I'm always mentoring, doing stuff, because, you might pass something along to somebody that passes along.
Yeah, and then that's the ripple effect.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. So let's take our cell phone out of it. Let's take our computer, anything technological out of this question. What's 3 things Dan can't live without?
Love, my family, my health.
Love it. Those are super fast, and you said it with conviction. That's beautiful. So what is Dan's definition of a life well lived?
A definition of a life well lived is to be able to, again, going back to living the very best version of yourself, and or said another way, probably more accurately, to strive to be that person.
Love
okay,
it.
because again, you'll never know when you're reaching your potential, and I don't think that it's possible to do so.
Right.
Okay. And so it's really more about striving to be that very best version of yourself.
And I love it that you said that it's a journey. Basically, I don't know if you said that, but it's a journey. It's like you're never going to reach the big thing, but as long as you're enjoying that journey and having some fun, that's
real quick, Scott. You think about it, it's like we go through elementary school and we can't wait to get to middle school, and we can't go to middle school. We can't wait to get to high school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Can't wait to retire. Right. Well, okay. Well, what's next? Right. I hope you can't wait. Next is death. Like that's not something that I want to look forward to. Right.
Right.
Right. And so a lot of us live our lives by what's the next milestone rather than focusing on what am I embracing today?
Yeah. Live now. Exactly. I love it. Love it. So as we wind things down a little bit, Dan, we have a leveling up lightning round, and I got 5 or 6 questions. You and I could talk 15, 20 minutes about each one of these, but my producer's on my other screen going 5 seconds. So 5 seconds, no explanation, just fire off your answer off the top of your head. You ready?
Go.
All righty. What's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Do your best.
Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Time blocking.
There you go. Manage that time. Love it. Other than your own website and, of course, timetoshinetoday.com, it's my shameless plug, what's another internet resource that you like to go to level up?
ClickFunnels.
Yeah, Russell, my man. Recommend a book, not one that you wrote, the one that's behind you, or the flavor of the month that you're seeing out there. What's the one book that you might have read that really changed your mind?
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon. It's the Bible, baby, or the business Bible, I should say. What age would you be if you could be one age the rest of your life?
18, man. Come on.
Bring it back.
Oh, 21. I make it 21. I don't drink anymore. 18's good. 18.
Favorite charity and or organization you like to give your time and or money to?
Toys for Tots.
What is it again?
Toys for Tots.
Oh, Toys for Tots. Love it.
I was respecting that 5 seconds. Come on.
No, I appreciate that. You're one of the first. So last question, what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
90s, baby.
All right. Very cool. Very cool.
You're going to have that 2000s and aughts into there relatively soon as we grow.
I know,
older.
right? And we have to drop that in there.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your book and how we can find you.
Sure. Real Estate Evolution is the 10-step guide to CPI, which is consistent and predictable income for real estate agents. And I wrote this book for producing agents as well as new agents to be able to have a systematic way to be able to care for their clients. And it's about my personal development. It's a how-to, and it's also about my journey. Okay. You can find that at www.therealestateevolution.com, and you can find me, Dan Rochon, on all the social medias.
Gotcha. I love it. And it looks like you got a real special offer for them in here as well. If they go to the realestateevolution.com. Sorry about that before. I don't know why I said revolution, but because I did kind of go through. I'm looking forward to getting my copy in Peeps. I'm going to actually, the first one that comments in the Time to Shine Today Facebook page, I'm going to have Dan sign a free copy of the book and mail it to you. And it's on my dime, and Dan's going to do that for me. Right, Dan? Can we
yes,
do that?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Perfect. And so just make sure that you go, and when you listen to this, go to the Time to Shine Today. There'll be a link in there also to his website as well. And Dan, leave us with one last knowledge nugget that you would like our squad to take with them, internalize, and put into action.
Yeah, whoever you want to be, whoever you're dreaming to be, whoever you think that you can be that person. And it all starts within the programming and the thinking and the feelings, the actions, and the results that will allow for you to achieve anything. You're not too young, you're not too old, you're not too whatever. You can achieve whatever it is that you want.
I love that, Dan. Nothing's impossible. If someone else did it, you can pretty much do it. I 100% am on board with you there. You're always like you talk about living the best version of yourself. What really stuck out to me was the nature and nurture. You can't always control where someone is from or their background, but you can help nurture them in the situation to make them feel comfortable, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a client. Ask yourself, when it's all said and done, was it worth the trip? Seriously, live your life intentionally. You know that you're worthy. And if it's possible to do it, then ask the how, ask powerful questions, move forward. Dan reminds us anything is possible. And one thing about Dan is he serves people. He listens not only with his ears, but with his eyes and his emotions. And that's why he is a rock star real estate agent that poured his life and his work into a book to help other agents like myself out there to level up their life. And Dan, thank you so much for coming on Time to Shine today. It's been an honor. You're part of our squad now. You can't go anywhere, brother.
Amen. My pleasure.
Have a great day, my man.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you're a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.